Because he never learned that you can't do stuff and not get away with it.
Right.
Yeah, and whose fault is that? If you did not lay down the law and do what you're supposed to do, then that's wrong. Now, you don't always have to spank. Now, in hindsight, I could have done it without spanking.
No,
but no,
that's what the grandparent always say.
One good spanking. You need discipline.
The grandparent always say that.
You need discipline.
No. But see, that's
they used to whip us in school.
I'm gonna tell you something. That spanking, it goes back to slavery. Right. That goes back to slavery.
I ain't know you can't. I ain't comparing that to slavery. I'm talking about just a house. All right. When we grew up in school, we used to get paddled. Yeah. But it was discipline. Now, when I say whip your child, I ain't talking about just beat them up crazy. I'm talking about.
I ain't talking about beating them up crazy.
But it's
go get my belt.
But it's it's discipline.
And you know who? And you know where that started at? In slavery. Oh, you disobeyed. Go get that whip.
You keep trying to bring the slavery. I don't want to bring the. I don't want to mix that up with the slavery.
Because there's other ways to discipline without. No, there's other ways to discipline without always being physical.
I don't think so. I think you lose the respect of your children. Physical. Like with my son, right? You give him that one whooping, it changes them. They be like, oh man.
But not everything deserves a spanking.
So my question
sometimes time out will work. Sometimes time out will work. You don't have to use a strap.
So I got a question for you, as someone who was spanking.
No.
And then you had a different change of heart. So the first question is, what made you have that change of heart? Was it after your last spanking when you were done spanking? And do you think that is something that's maybe just for the black community? Do you think the Indian community, the Caucasian community, the Asian community? Do you think that all communities are spanking, or is it just you said slavery?
But see, to be honest about it, we spank more than anybody else. We do. And the thing about it is, and you're right, what changed my mind?
We advertise it more like as a culture, proud of but we don't.
What changed my mind was my children. My children changed my mind. My son and my daughter both changed my mind about the spankings because they disciplined their children just as effectively as I disciplined them, but they did not always use a belt. They did not always get physical with it, and it worked. If you look at my grandchildren, they are very well behaved, and my parents, and unlike me, unlike my parents, unlike me, my children did not always have to go get the strap, get my belt.
Yeah, I never spanked my girls. My son, though, is different. He'll buck up a little bit, right? And he'll be like, whoa. I'm
going to be real with you.
Then once he does that,
my son bucked up on me once, and I took him down.
See what I'm saying?
That's not a spanking, though, right?
That wasn't
it's worse, though.
But that was
an older age.
He was older age. I had to take him down because I didn't want him thinking that he can get away with this stuff, right? So I took him down. But here's the thing. I took him down in a manner that he did not get hurt.
Right.
I took him down in a manner that he realized that, Okay. You know what I'm saying?
That goes back to that control of the power as the man. You still have to show that control. I agree with you. I do believe there is a way to discipline your children, especially change the narratives, man. You out here spanking people. They might, you a little too big to be spanking people, right?
But no, it's like...
But no, that's something that when I was mad, I never spanked my kids when I was mad.
Right. Well,
never because
that's hard.
Because
but that's important.
You're not mad at it's just it builds up.
I wouldn't do it because I would be afraid I might use too much force.
Yeah, you can go too far.
You go too far.
Oh yeah. So you
don't
want to lose your mind.
It goes back to what you said before. You got to have that discipline. But you got that. But I learned from watching my children. Right. But I learned from watching my children how they raised their kids. They didn't spank nowhere near as much. And they managed to raise their children right without having to go to a belt. And I realized, then I started thinking back. When I was younger.
Are they still little kids?
13.
13.
Right? And they
don't get whippings, basically, what you said.
But my daughter would spank him if she has to. So I'm not saying that you don't spank at all. What I'm trying to say is that very limited compared to what I do.
That's what I'm saying.
Because I know it was a difference. All right, for example. What's something simple?
I've never seen, be honest about it, I've never seen my daughter spank my granddaughters.
Yeah.
Or my son spank. It could be something like kids. Your mama or somebody could say, you better not go in that cookie jar no more. I'm just using an example. You better not go in that cookie jar no more. We tend to still sneak and go in that cookie jar.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But then when you do that again, you got to get beat.
Well, I'm going to be honest with you.
But it's a balance because, like, I use my pops for an example. Like, when I got whoopings, I probably hated him at the time, but it was a balance. He came back to me either the next day or later and said, man, I had to do that because it kicked it with me. Like, you can't be doing that, man. You know what I'm saying? But it was a...
See, spanking never worked on me.
It was a balance, though.
I don't think spanking
never worked on.
You don't think it worked?
No, because
never worked on me.
I think you think about people who got the most spankings, they still be bad.
That's right.
No,
they still be bad. The spanking didn't change them. Because at some point they get used to it. They ain't even scared of it.
I think you mix it with godly principles though. Like,
whatever, you about to spank me?
I can bring it on. I did this before. When I got spanked, I would put it like this. I would rather they got a spanking than get on punishment. You know why? Spanking's over with. Yeah. I'll go back and do what I want. And you know what I used to think? Is this worth the spanking? Well, my chances of getting caught is this. The spanking only gonna last this long. Because then I'm gonna go on and do it.
But I'd be scared of getting a whipping.
I got desensitized to it.
Yeah. But I'd be scared of getting a whipping from my dad than to do something like at school or something. Like, I wouldn't even, like, getting a whipping from my dad to me was worse than me going to jail doing something.
And me too.
Like,
me too.
You know what I'm saying?
Me too.
He didn't used to beat me, but it was just, it made me think twice about my decision making as a kid. Like,
but see, it wasn't because of the fact that he would spank me. It's because of the fact he was my dad. That's what it was. Not the fact that I would go home and get a spanking, but he was my dad. So that put the fear of God in me.
There you go. The fear of God. I just want to add on to that because I think just bringing it back to the conversation about the manosphere, I think one thing that is important about being a man is to have that fear of God, right? Just the same way that, you're talking about being afraid of your father, right? Being afraid of our heavenly Father, right? For that spanking.
That's a sign of respect.
That wrath of God. And so you love your father. You want to make your father proud. You don't want to disappoint your father, and he's all powerful, and so you don't want to do that. But for some people, they be like, man, God done beat down on me. Some people who just get so far that I done get beat down, I ain't got nothing left, whatever. Like, I'm gonna just do whatever anyways. Yeah.
So
they don't have that reverence.
Right. But see, then you have people, and when they get to that point, then you got people commit suicide.
Yeah, and so
for what? Because
it's hopeless.
You talking about from God's perspective, or
no? When they reach a point where it's hopeless, they have no hope.
I mean, I guess
talking about off of a whipping.
No.
I think he's just saying, like, when they just feel like they've been beat down so bad that they don't have anything, and so they maybe gone, but I don't know, from God's perspective, I don't know.
I don't think God would ever beat you down to the point where you commit suicide.
No, God doesn't. What I'm saying is
the way you internalize it.
Is the way you internalizing things, right? But see, the role of, and that's what I'm saying, fathers have just as much of a role as a mother when it comes to nurturing. Because the thing about it is,
it's different. Yeah,
it's just different. For example, a kid will not think that would be less likely to consider suicide because I got a father who can protect me. How often when you growing up saying, I'm gonna get my mama on you. Why? Because it was your daddy who was always the one who had the power, right? Well, my daddy is bigger than your daddy. It was your daddy who was the hero, who was the defender.
Well, that suicide comes from
it depends
on your upbringing. To me, like my whole family played the part. Like, I can get a whooping from my uncle, my auntie, my grandma, my granddad. Right. Like, if I'm doing wrong in front of somebody, I can get.
They gonna get you. Right.
Even a neighbor. If I'm outside doing something wrong,
that's changed
the neighbor, they check you. Hey, Dwan, what you out there doing? You know what I'm saying?
Right. But that's changed.
Yeah. That's changed. If you, and that typically happens if you were born in the hood or something. You know what I'm saying? But it depends on your surroundings. Yeah. Like your area, just the whole village. Yeah. Like they say, it takes a village to raise a child.
Yeah. But see, even that's changed now, because now if you go, just somebody as a kid, they can be trying to shoot you.
Yeah,
don't you touch my child.
You can't do it.
I mean, seriously.
But that's sad.
Well, I think that's why we discipline our children. This is one of the reasons why I discipline my son and tell him that, because if he disrespects me, then he's probably going to disrespect somebody out there in the world.
No doubt.
Right? And they're not going to be as nice as me. If you disrespect a police officer, that's one thing that we don't teach our kids about accountability. You don't say what you want to a police officer, right? I mean, you can, but he has the gun. So if you just get that ticket out of my face, right?
Do worse.
I would say that. So for me to discipline him, I'm hoping to give him enough pain that he knows that there's a consequence associated with your actions, right? Yeah. And if you don't know that there's a consequence to drinking and driving, there's a consequence to smoking weed, there's a consequence to that. And so a whooping is a small form and is easy because you recover from whooping. You ain't gonna be able to recover from a hit and run or drunk driving or something like that. So you gotta make them feel that.
Right, but what I'm saying is,
you know what I'm saying? So you gotta make them feel that.
A spanking or a whooping is not the only means of discipline.
But it's the best because
going
to jail for 20 years is worse than a whooping.
The ride doesn't have
that's that time out.
Spare the ride as a child.
Yeah.
That ride does not always have to be physical. That ride does not always have to be a
but they know it's serious.
I feel like
whenever you put your hands on, they're like, okay, this is real now. Like I ain't just getting yelled at. Like some things you can yell at a child to get your point across.
Yeah,
I feel like for a man it's different too. I feel like for a man, you get to a point where you're not afraid of somebody yelling at you. You get to the point you're not afraid of something being taken away, but don't nobody want to get beat up.
Yeah.
No matter how old you are, you don't want to get beat up, and so sometimes that pain is that stimulus that will deter you.
Right, but with your children, with a certain age, it should no longer be a thing where you even have to discipline. It should be one of those things where.
Well, if you raised
them,
you said 13,
right? Yeah.
So 13 through 17, that's that age. That's that age range.
I'm gonna tell you something right now, and I learned this with my grandchildren. I raised my voice, and I didn't think me raising my voice would be that big a problem, but that hurt my granddaughter's feelings to no end. I've learned that I'm better off talking firmly to them because when I raise my voice, it really upsets them because I'm their granddad. They don't want me mad at them. They don't. Because they had that level of respect, and it had nothing to do with me putting a belt on their behind. Had nothing to do with.
I don't know about the girls. I mean, my wife was a girl,
but even with my grandsons, even with my grandsons, I don't have to physically spank them.
But once that testosterone, they're going to look at you. You got to kind of get that respect, though. They have to respect.
But you don't have to get respect by always being physical.
Not always. But
see, what I'm trying to tell
especially
you.
Especially as a granddad.
That's what I'm saying. You don't want your granddad mad at you anyway.
But see, here's the thing, though.
Dad's a different story.
But see, if my daughters and sons did not raise their children right, they wouldn't have that respect for me. They wouldn't. Because if they didn't raise them the right way, they wouldn't have that respect. Right. I've seen plenty of kids dog out their grandparents. Yeah. No problem.
Oh no. Mm-hmm.
I have. Ooh. I mean, I've seen like
but it's probably like what they're saying is just like the respect that your son has for you will be extended down to his children.
But see,
like they say, if you raise your kids, you can spoil your grandkids. Yeah. If you spoil your kids, then you're gonna have to raise your grandkids.
I'm very lucky as a grandparent that I do not have to raise my grandkids. Right? Because my kids are doing what they're supposed to be doing. But what I'm saying is, I watch, and what really turned me against spankings was watching my children raise their children. Because they don't spank
so
them.
after you spank them all.
Yeah. And but I have to admit, I was wrong. I mean,
they doing a good job.
I feel that's a grandparent thing, though. You know, my mom said the same thing after she done spanked us. You know? Oh, I ain't gonna spank nobody. Well, you're done. You done did it all.
Right. But what I'm saying, though, is I always thought that you had to spank. You had to spank. Yeah. And I did not learn that you didn't have to spank until I watched my children raise their children. Then I learned that I
think you understood the seriousness of disobedience, though. Yeah, when a child is disobedient.
But see, what I'm saying is, my kids have found a way to make their kids know that disobedience is not an acceptable behavior.
How do you make them illustrate that without pain?
They did it without pain.
What's the solution?
They use timeouts.
But see, that's
I'm telling you, you asked them to. They use timeouts. They use by taking away privileges. Giving privileges based on what they've earned. The ride can be different things based on that child. So the same ride that you use on child A may not work on child B.
So give me an example of a timeout. What's the timeout?
For example, I see my daughter and son use a timeout. Okay, give me your iPad. You can't have it now because you did such and such a wrong. Okay. And they have to go along without it. They may have to go a week. Timeout? It depends. Sometimes it was a day. Sometimes it was a week.
And it was effective? Did it really feel the significance of it?
See, when I got put on punishment, I got a whooping, and then I had to sit in my room with no TV, no nothing.
You make you flex.
For a week. So it felt like I was in jail for a week. Like I couldn't go nowhere.
You know what? That happened to me. You know what I did? When my parents went to sleep, I called out the milk chute. You did what I wanted to do anyway.
You gonna try to be
not
slick,
milk chute.
but you
had milk chute. But see, I knew better. I knew not to touch that front door. I touched that front door. My daddy was up. I was in trouble. For some reason, it was like his ears was connected to the front door and was connected to certain windows. Right? It's like
But if I take your tablet for a couple hours and then feel sorry for you, say you got that, like that ain't really
That's not discipline. At that point, the kid runs real quick without really learning.